The silent hum of the orbital station hung heavy in the vacuum of space, a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding within its cold metallic walls. Captain Elias Voss pressed his back against the bulkhead, his pulse steady despite the distant echoes of alien boots marching toward him. "Go dark," he whispered into his communicator. The team obeyed instantly. The station's dim emergency lights flickered as the rebels activated their dampeners, vanishing from sensors. Voss exhaled slowly. They had one chance. One moment to show the Zalvanni Dominion that humanity would not kneel. Minutes earlier, the station had belonged to the Dominion, a minor outpost in their vast empire. Now, it was ground zero for a revolution. Voss glanced at his second-in-command, Lieutenant Kara Reynolds, her expression steeled with determination. "On my mark," he mouthed. The Zalvanni patrol rounded the corner. A flash of movement. A single silenced shot. The lead guard collapsed, and before the others could react, the rebels descended upon them with brutal efficiency. The fight was over in seconds. Voss retrieved a plasma rifle from a fallen enemy, checking the charge. "Command centers 2 levels down," Reynolds whispered. "We take control, and we send the signal." The signal. The message that would tell the galaxy that humanity was done being subjugated. Voss nodded. "Then let's remind them why they should fear us." The war for humanity's future had begun. The Zalvanni Dominion had ruled with an iron fist for centuries, believing their empire unshakable. Humanity was a mere footnote in their conquests, another species to be subdued and exploited. But as Captain Elias Voss and his team stormed the command center of Outpost Theta 9, they were about to prove how wrong the Zalvanni were. The control room was dimly lit, the glow of alien holograms casting eerie shadows across the curved walls. Voss moved fast, his plasma rifle raised as his squad fanned out. The Zalvanni officers barely had time to react before silenced shots cut them down. "Clear," Reynolds whispered, scanning the room. Voss strode to the main console and removed a small black device from his belt, a virus, designed to override the Dominion's communications grid and broadcast their rebellion across occupied territories. "This is it," he muttered, inserting the device into the system. The screen flickered, alien script shifting and warping as human ingenuity worked its way through the Dominion's firewalls. A robotic voice crackled through their earpieces. "Upload complete in 60 seconds. Voss tightened his grip on his rifle. 60 seconds was an eternity in enemy territory. Alarms blared, red lights flashing as the station's security systems activated. Heavy boots pounded against the deck outside. "Contact incoming," Reynolds hissed, raising her weapon. The door burst open in a flash of plasma fire. Voss barely had time to duck before a bolt seared past his head, melting a console behind him. The team returned fire, moving in coordinated precision. A Zalvanni enforcer, a towering brute clad in black armor, charged through the doorway, a massive energy blade crackling in his clawed hands. Voss rolled aside as the blade carved into the floor where he'd stood a moment before. He came up firing, aiming for the exposed joint in the enforcer's armor. The first shot staggered the alien. The second put it down. 20 seconds, the AI reported. "Hold the damn door," Voss barked. The firefight intensified. More Zalvanni poured in, their chittering battle cries echoing through the station. The rebels fought tooth and nail, using cover and superior tactics to hold their ground. Reynolds took a shot to the shoulder but kept firing. One of their team went down, Lou, a demolition expert. Voss gritted his teeth but didn't have time to mourn. Transmission sent. "Move!" Voss shouted. They fell back, grenades covering their retreat as they raced toward the hangar. The station trembled as explosions rocked its core, the result of charges they had planted earlier. By the time they reached their stolen shuttle, the Dominion's forces were in disarray. Voss took one last look at the chaos they had unleashed. Today, humanity had struck first. And the galaxy was about to learn what it meant to defy them. The stolen shuttle hurtled through space, its engines strained to their limits as Captain Elias Voss and his team fled the burning wreckage of Outpost Theta 9. The Zalvani Dominion would be scrambling to respond, but the rebels had done what they came to do. The message had been sent. Across occupied human colonies and beyond, millions had seen the broadcast. Humanity would no longer kneel. But defiance alone wouldn't be enough to win a war. Voss leaned against the shuttle's bulkhead, catching his breath as Reynolds clutched her wounded shoulder. Across from him, their engineer, Rafe O'Donnell, worked feverishly at a control panel, rerouting power to the engines. "They'll be coming for us," Reynolds gritted out, her face pale with pain. "They're already looking," O'Donnell muttered. "Dominion patrols are swarming the sector." Voss wiped the sweat from his brow. "Then we disappear." Their destination was Refuge, an abandoned asteroid station hidden deep within a dense nebula. It was once a mining outpost, long since forgotten by the major powers. Now, it would become something else entirely, a stronghold, a proving ground, the beating heart of a revolution. As the shuttle entered the swirling storm of dust and charged particles, their pursuers lost their trail. Voss exhaled in relief. They had made it. But the hard part was just beginning. Days later, Refuge, the birthplace of resistance. The asteroid station was barely habitable. Life support was failing in several sections, power flickered intermittently, and ancient mining drones sat dormant in forgotten hangars. But to Voss and his growing band of rebels, it was perfect. Scavengers, exiled mercenaries, and defectors from alien species sympathetic to their cause began arriving in secret. Engineers repurposed Dominion technology, hacking and modifying it into something new. Mechanics stripped down old starships, transforming them into war machines optimized for asymmetric warfare. Scientists experimented with cyber warfare tactics, developing AI routines that could infiltrate and disrupt Dominion systems. But the most crucial weapon of all wasn't a ship, a gun, or an AI. It was the human mind. While the Dominion relied on overwhelming force and predictable strategy, humanity embraced adaptability. Unconventional warfare. Deception. Engineering the impossible, ****. Voss oversaw the operation with military precision. Every new recruit underwent grueling training. Every scavenged piece of technology was either weaponized or discarded. And every plan they devised aimed not to fight the Dominion head-on, but to outthink them. The rebels began deploying shadow ships, old freighters outfitted with advanced cloaking fields and electronic warfare suites, capable of slipping past enemy fleets undetected. They launched coordinated cyber attacks against Dominion data hubs, falsifying troop movements and supply routes. They struck at isolated targets, vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. With each success, the rebellion grew. The galaxy was starting to take notice. But Voss knew the Dominion wouldn't stay on the defensive forever. "They're going to hit back hard," Reynolds warned as they analyzed reports from their spies. "And when they do, they won't make the mistake of underestimating us again." Voss nodded. "Then we make sure that when they come, they're the ones who aren't ready." The rebellion had grown, but so had the stakes. Humanity's audacious strikes against the Zalvani Dominion, once seen as small, insignificant attacks, were beginning to make waves across the galaxy. It was no longer just an isolated insurgency, it was a movement. But with each victory came a harsh cost. Humanity's enemies, the ancient and mighty galactic empires, were not known for their mercy. As the rebellion gained momentum, they began to strike back with brutal force. They could no longer afford to underestimate the humans who had dared defy them. The Dominion retaliated with a show of overwhelming power, sending entire fleets to stamp out pockets of rebellion. A massacre at the mining world of Selenes marked the turning point. The Dominion unleashed their devastating planetary bombardment weapon, reducing the once thriving world to a lifeless ball of ash. Thousands of innocent lives were lost, and the flames of war spread further. The brutal response was meant to break the resistance, to show humanity that they were no match for the might of the galactic empires. Instead, it ignited something far fiercer in the hearts of those fighting. The image of a charred and lifeless Selenes became the rallying cry of the rebellion, a reminder of the price of freedom. But the cost of defiance was not only felt in blood. The rebellion was divided. Not everyone agreed with Voss' methods. There were those among the resistance who believed in a more direct, head-on approach to confronting the Dominion. They wanted to launch larger-scale attacks, to take the fight directly to the heart of the Empire, no matter the cost. Others, more cautious, urged restraint, warning that humanity wasn't yet ready to face the full might of the galactic powers. The debate came to a head when Cassandra Vorn, a charismatic leader of the New Horizons faction, publicly challenged Voss. She accused him of hesitating when humanity needed bold action. Her faction had grown increasingly impatient with what they saw as Voss' strategic conservatism, and as the rebellion's tension simmered, it became clear that the fractures were growing deeper. "Elias, the time for waiting is over," Cassandra had said in a public broadcast. "The Dominion will never fear us until we strike at their core. We need to show them the strength of the human will." But Voss had a different perspective. "Rushing in without a plan will get us all killed," he responded, his voice steady but firm. "We need to be smarter than that. Every move we make must count." The disagreement escalated. A group of Cassandra's followers defected, taking key ships and weapons with them. The rebellion was now at war within itself. The threat of a civil conflict was as real as the external one they faced. But worse was yet to come. One fateful night, a high-ranking member of the rebellion's command staff was exposed as a spy. A Dominion agent had infiltrated their ranks for months, leaking information on their operations. The betrayal cost the rebels dearly. A surprise attack on their command base led to devastating casualties. Dozens were lost, including Lieutenant Kara Reynolds, who had been critically wounded in the ambush. As Voss stood over her, the woman who had stood by him through the darkest days of the rebellion, he realized something. The path to victory would be long, and many more would fall before it was over. "Don't make it be for nothing," Reynolds whispered through clenched teeth as the medics worked to stabilize her. Voss gripped her hand, his voice low. "We'll win this war. I promise." But in that moment, he wasn't sure if he believed it. The Dominion had the advantage now. They were closing in on the remnants of the rebellion. Refuge was compromised, too many ships had been spotted in the area. If they didn't act quickly, humanity's fight for freedom might be extinguished. Voss made a decision. He couldn't afford to waste any more time. They would leave Refuge. They would fight on new ground. And they would show the galaxy that humanity could not be defeated, not now, not ever. But the war was about to get much darker. The days of retreat were over. After the devastating losses at Refuge, Captain Elias Voss made the call to relocate the remaining forces to a hidden stronghold located deep within the Hellion Rift, a desolate, uncharted region of space where few would dare follow. This would be the proving ground, where humanity would evolve or perish. And evolve they did. No longer relying solely on scavenged weapons or stolen technology, the rebels began to improvise, innovate, and adapt in ways the galactic empires never expected. Human ingenuity had always been their greatest asset, and now it was their weapon. The first step was adapting to the advanced technologies the Dominion used against them. With the help of scientists and engineers who had defected from the Empire's ranks, humanity developed new tactics and weapons that countered the Dominion's overwhelming firepower. Old freighters were outfitted with cutting-edge cloaking technology and advanced energy shields, making them nearly impossible to detect by conventional sensors. But it wasn't just about ships. Humanity's ingenuity went further than any one vessel. They began to develop genetic enhancements, using a combination of human biology and alien tech to enhance strength, agility, and mental acuity. Soldiers trained in these techniques were faster, smarter, and more resilient than any normal human, often with cybernetic enhancements that allowed them to interface with machines directly, making them the ultimate soldiers for this new kind of warfare. Human soldiers were no longer just fighting for survival, they were becoming superior, evolving into a new breed of warrior, one capable of going toe-to-toe with the galaxy's most fearsome species. Voss stood at the edge of the Hellion Rift as his forces prepared for the next phase of the war. Below him, the new human fleet had gathered, ships built with salvage technology, patched together in ways that would have been impossible for the Dominion to predict. The Revolt-class warships were a testament to humanity's evolution, each one a fusion of alien tech and human engineering genius, armed with plasma cannons and energy shields that could rival even the Dominion's most advanced warships. "We're ready," Reynolds said, now fully recovered and more resolute than ever. Her voice was calm, but there was an edge to it, a fire that burned deeper than ever before. Voss turned to face her, his gaze steady. "We make our stand now. This is our moment." The strategy was simple. They would strike at Keshvak, the heart of the Dominion's military command. A direct assault would be foolish. They had neither the manpower or the resources to face the entire Dominion fleet head-on. Instead, they would deploy their new weapons of war to target the Dominion supply lines, disrupt communications, and create chaos within their ranks. Humanity was learning to fight smarter, and the Dominion had no idea what was coming. The rebellion launched a series of lightning strikes, raiding Dominion military outposts and supply depots across multiple systems. The human ships were like ghosts in the night, slipping past sensors and striking with surgical precision. The Dominion's fleets, unable to predict humanity's tactics, struggled to defend against the onslaught. It wasn't just the technology that was shifting, the mindset of the rebellion had changed. Every operation now involved deception, misdirection, and an understanding of how the Dominion thought. They were no longer reacting to the Empire's moves, they were dictating the terms of the war. In the midst of the chaos, an unexpected ally emerged. A group of Kalkari, an ancient and secretive alien species that had been monitoring the war from the shadows, made contact with the rebels. The Kalkari had long been oppressed by the Dominion, their world enslaved and their people scattered across the galaxy. They had been waiting for a spark, something to ignite the fires of resistance. The Kalkari offered humanity their advanced biological technology, which had allowed them to survive for centuries despite the Dominion's efforts to annihilate them. Their bio-enhancements were far more sophisticated than anything humanity had developed, but the Kalkari were willing to share their knowledge, seeing in humanity a kindred spirit. Voss watched as the first Kalkari ships arrived at the rift, sleek and streamlined, their hulls reflecting the dim starlight. They had come to join the fight. This new alliance marked a turning point. Humanity was no longer alone in their struggle. The galaxy's oppressed had seen the fire of rebellion, and now they were coming together. Together, they would strike at the heart of the Dominion, and together, they would bring it to its knees. But as humanity evolved into a true galactic power, the stakes grew higher. The Dominion would no longer make the mistake of underestimating them. The final confrontation was fast approaching. The war for the galaxy's future was about to become a battle for survival. The Dominion's war machine was vast, but humanity's resolve had grown even vaster. What started as a series of hit-and-run raids had become a full-scale campaign. The rebels, once disorganized and outclassed, now stood on the cusp of something far greater. They had forged alliances with the Kalkari, and their new technology was transforming the tide of the war. But even with all the momentum behind them, they knew the hardest battle lay ahead. Captain Elias Voss stood in the war room aboard the flagship Freedom's Resolve, his gaze fixed on the tactical display before him. The time had come to strike at Keshvak, the nerve center of the Dominion's military leadership. It was a planet heavily fortified, surrounded by layers of orbital defenses, and home to the Emperor himself. A direct assault would be suicide. But Voss had a plan, one that would exploit the Dominion's greatest weakness, their arrogance. Human ingenuity had always been their ace in the hole, and now it would be their greatest weapon. The rebels had discovered a flaw in the Dominion's primary defense grid, a vulnerability in the energy field that surrounded Keshvak. It was a long shot, but with the Kalkari's advanced biotech and their own modified ships, they would infiltrate the planet's defenses and land on its surface undetected. Once we make it to the surface, we need to disable their command center, Voss explained to his team. We cut the head off the snake, and the rest will crumble. Reynolds nodded, her expression determined. And if the snake bites back? If it does, we'll have the bite to match, Voss said grimly. The fate of the galaxy depends on this. The first wave of ships launched under the cover of darkness, their cloaking devices rendering them invisible to the Dominion scanners. It was a silent assault, an army of shadows, and they were closing in on Keshvak faster than the Dominion could respond. As they neared the planet's orbit, a terrible realization dawned. The Dominion knew. It was a trap. The Dominion had anticipated the rebels' tactics, and they had set their own countermeasures in motion. As the fleet descended into the atmosphere, a hidden fleet of Zalvani warships emerged from the planet's dark side, their weapons primed and locked. The rebels had walked right into the heart of the Empire's defenses. The opening salvo from the Dominion warships tore through the advancing fleet, explosions lighting up the darkness like stars falling from the heavens. The human ships fought back with every ounce of their strength, but the superior firepower of the Dominion was overwhelming. Within moments, the rebels lost several key vessels, and many of their troops were stranded in the chaos of space. Damn it! Voss swore, slamming his fist on the console. We're losing them. We're not done yet, Reynolds said, her eyes fierce. We still have the ground forces. The ground assault had already begun, with thousands of soldiers, human and Calcari alike, making their way toward the surface of Keshvak, led by their elite fighters, trained in the art of asymmetrical warfare. They were the last hope. Voss clenched his jaw. If they failed, everything they had fought for would be lost. On the surface of Keshvak. The landscape of Keshvak was a war-torn wasteland, scorched by years of Dominion rule. Massive military bases dotted the horizon, their towering spires gleaming in the red-tinted sky. The rebels made their way through the ruins, moving swiftly under the cover of night, using the advanced cloaking technology developed by the Calcari to stay out of sight. The strike teams, human and Calcari warriors working in tandem, swept through enemy patrols with silent efficiency. There were no grand battles here, only a series of calculated, brutal strikes, each one weakening the Dominion's hold on the planet. Voss's team reached the command center at the heart of the enemy base. The door was sealed, heavily guarded by Dominion enforcers. It was the final barrier to their victory, or their destruction. The rebels took a deep breath and advanced. They fought with desperation, but also with a fierce pride. These were the last moments of the rebellion before the world would change forever. This was their tipping point. As the final Dominion officer fell, the doors to the command center cracked open. A group of Zalvani commanders stood inside, preparing to launch a counteroffensive. But they were too late. Voss and Reynolds stormed in, weapons raised. It's over, Voss said, his voice cold. Your empire is finished. The Zalvani emperor himself, watching from a control panel, looked up in surprise. Impossible. You're just humans. You think you can defeat us? We don't need to defeat you, Reynolds shot back, stepping forward with a grin. We just need to outlast you. With a swift motion, Voss activated the self-destruct sequence for the Dominion's core systems, setting off a chain reaction that would cripple the Zalvani Dominion's ability to communicate, coordinate, and defend itself across the galaxy. The final phase of their plan was in motion. The fate of the universe was in their hands. The final blow had been struck. As the self-destruct sequence detonated within the heart of the Dominion's military command, the galaxy held its breath. The Zalvani Empire, the most powerful force in the galaxy, had been crippled. Communication lines were severed. Ships were disabled. And the once mighty Dominion, which had oppressed countless worlds for centuries, was suddenly in disarray. Humanity had done it. The forces of the rebellion, no longer mere insurgents, but now a fully realized galactic power, had struck at the heart of their oppressor and emerged victorious. The impact was felt across the galaxy as other oppressed species rose to claim their own freedom. Worlds long held under the Dominion's thumb now saw their chance for liberation, and they reached out to the humans, offering their support. The Calcari were among the first to pledge their full allegiance. Their advanced biotechnologies and warriors are now a critical part of the rebellion's newfound strength. But victory, as sweet as it was, did not come without its scars. In the wake of their triumph, the galaxy was in chaos. The Zalvani Dominion might have fallen, but the power vacuum it left behind threatened to tear apart the delicate balance of the galaxy. Rebel factions, some of which had once been allies, now turned their eyes on the prize, control of the galaxy. Captain Elias Voss stood before a new council of leaders, human and alien alike, gathered on the once barren world of New Dawn, a place reclaimed by the rebellion and transformed into a symbol of their victory. There was celebration, but also uncertainty. With the Dominion's fall, the galaxy was left to pick up the pieces. Voss looked out over the crowd, his heart heavy with the weight of the responsibility placed upon him. They had defied the odds and broken the chains of oppression, but the fight wasn't over. The galaxy would need to rebuild, to forge a new future, not just for humanity, but for all those who had stood alongside them. "This isn't the end," Voss said, his voice carrying across the hall. "It's the beginning of something new. But freedom comes at a price. We will face challenges, setbacks, and trials. There will be those who would seek to fill the void left by the Dominion, those who would use our victory to seize power for themselves. We must be vigilant." He paused, looking around the room. Reynolds, standing by his side, gave him a small, encouraging nod. He wasn't alone in this fight. Not anymore. "We must build something greater than what we had before," Voss continued. "Humanity's strength lies not just in our will to survive, but in our ability to adapt, to learn, and to evolve. We've shown the galaxy what we're capable of. Now it's time to show them that we can lead with wisdom, not just power." The room fell silent. It was a daunting task, one that would take time, effort, and patience. The old ways of the galaxy, dominated by empires and militaristic regimes, were crumbling, but they had not yet been replaced with something better. The road ahead would be uncertain. But humanity, for the first time in history, had a seat at the table. Outside, the sky over New Dawn was bathed in the light of a new star, a symbol of the future. A future where the galaxy would no longer be ruled by the few, but shaped by the many. The people of the galaxy, human and alien alike, had seen the power of a determined few, and now they knew that anything was possible. Against all odds, Reynolds said quietly, her voice a reminder of all they had been through, "We rose to power." Voss smiled, his gaze distant as he looked toward the stars. "And we'll keep rising." The galaxy had been forever changed. Humanity had proven that against all odds, they could rise to power. And in doing so, they had shown the universe what it meant to be truly free.